Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, it's Thursday afternoon, and well, I don't know if our new pages know the significance of Thursday afternoon, but it's usually the time I come down and talk about our Alaskan of the Week. Hopefully everybody can see that. It's kind of a special poster board today because it's got the Capitol Christmas tree on it. I'm going to talk a lot about that Capitol Christmas tree. So the Alaskan of the Week is, for the reporters who are still around here on Thursday afternoon, the American people, they all view this is their favorite speech of the week. I'm just saying, not bragging, it's true. Because we talk about someone really special in Alaska. It could be someone national, a great hero. Could be someone who just did something great for their local community. And then we talk a little bit about what's going on in Alaska. Most of the country is intrigued by our great state. Little snapshot of what's happening. So let me do that right now. Winter's not coming. Winter's here. Heck, winter came before Halloween. We had a lot of snow in Anchorage before Halloween, and now we're getting a ton of snow. It's cold, a lot of snow. So the holiday spirit is upon us. We love that. Northern lights are out. It is literally a winter wonderland. If you want to come up to Alaska, people in the gallery, come on up. You'll have the best visit of your life, summer, winter, fall, doesn't matter. By the way, Utqiagvik, Alaska, that's our northernmost community, referred to previously as Barrow, Alaska. The sun went down November 19th, and it's not coming up until January 23rd of 2025. So, kind of dark in Utqiagvik right now. They're not going to have a sunrise until late January. So we love them up there. Tough, great Americans, patriotic Americans. So everyone in my state is already enjoying winter. So if you can't come up to Alaska to join winter this winter, we're going to bring a little bit of Alaska here to D.C. That's right, the Capitol Christmas tree, which will be lit up in front of the Capitol building for the month of December, is coming all the way from the Tongass National Forest. Presiding officer cares a lot about the Tongass, we know that. Just outside of Wrangell, Alaska. That's a journey of almost 5,000 miles. And this is no living room-sized Christmas tree, folks. It is an 85-foot Sitka spruce. That's a big tree. You're going to see it out in front of the Capitol here very soon. Now, I'm sure everybody listening, and we know there's millions of people listening to this Alaskan of the Week speech, millions, they have a lot of questions. Wait, how do you transport a tree that size almost 5,000 miles across America? There's a lot of moving parts, including 7 different vehicles, multiple Forest Service members on tree watering duty. You don't want your tree to dry out when you drive it across the country. And of course, the intrepid truck drivers who have taken up this charge to successfully and safely deliver Alaska's Christmas tree to America's mall, to the Capitol. These Alaskans, Fred Austin and John Schank, longtime Alaska truck drivers, both Teamsters, are the men responsible for driving for 3 weeks to deliver this tree to Washington, D.C. And they, Madam President, Fred and John, are our Alaskans of the Week. By the way, I love the Teamsters. Big fan of the Teamsters. During the pandemic, I went out in our backyard in Anchorage and gave a speech making all the Teamsters our Alaskans of the Week because they were keeping our economy open when essentially the rest of the country, the rest of Alaska was shut down. So here's to the Teamsters, here's to Fred and John. So let me give you a little background on this tree that Fred and John shared with me and my team recently. This gigantic tree was cut down outside of Wrangell, Alaska, as I mentioned, in late October, and was shipped from southeast Alaska, that's where Wrangell is, to Seattle, presiding officer's hometown, on November 3rd, escorted by Forest Service members who are caring for the tree, like I said, watering it, keeping it fresh the whole trip. When we checked in on Fred, and they're here now, they're going to be here tomorrow morning, we checked in on them. They were just about to stop in Omaha, Nebraska. By the time they conclude their journey, which will be tomorrow, they will have stopped in 12 states, 17 towns across America. And if you were lucky enough to be one of those Americans to live within driving distance of any of their stops, these guys would have been hard to miss. Now, thousands of Americans have come out to see this tree going across the country. The upper half of this tree is already covered in Christmas lights and is visible through plexiglass. And the 85-foot custom-built trailer serves as a gigantic autograph book that has collected thousands of signatures across the country from Americans and Christmas enthusiasts all across our great nation. So let's talk about these two great Alaskans, our Alaskans of the week. Fred, first, transporting a tree of this size, that many miles, requires, like I said, a crack team, which is why Fred and John were chosen. Two Teamsters, get this, with combined trucking experience of over 130 years. Do the math. These guys know how to drive trucks. Fred has been trucking for 71 years, Madam President. He's only 89 years old right now. Born in 1935, a good year for wine, he says. Fred started trucking at the age of 18. He's literally probably the most experienced truck driver in America, driving that tree. Like so many Alaskans, Fred is a veteran. And by the way, Alaska has more veterans per capita than any state in the country. We're very proud of that, our patriotic heritage in Alaska. And I would venture to guess that there are few Navy veterans still around today who were part of the U.S. Navy blockade during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Big point in American history. Well, guess what? Fred was. He served on the USS Mullinix and was in the Navy for 6 years. He was defending democracy then and spreading Christmas cheer now. Fred literally has done it all. Fred came to Alaska with his family in the mid-1960s and, no kidding, settled in North Pole, Alaska, a very fitting hometown for what would be his task today, delivering America's Christmas tree. Some of you Alaskan of the Week fans might remember the Alaskan of the Week about a year ago, last December, when I spoke about the North Pole, Alaska's Miller family and their Santa Claus house. So again, Americans, you want to come up and see a great part of our great state, come to North Pole, Alaska in the interior. The Santa Claus house is still going strong. If you write a letter addressed to Santa in North Pole, your letter will end up at the Santa Claus house in Fred's hometown. When you get a reply, it's postmarked North Pole, Alaska. No kidding. So why did Fred decide to head north to the great state of Alaska? He said, quote, "It's in our blood to go find the frontier. That's been the history of the world. It was time for me to go north." And now he's making this almost 5,000-mile trip to bring the last frontier to Washington, D.C. Driving down south is an experience for Fred, much different than driving in the last frontier. Fred says, quote, "There's lots of highways and traffic. At home in Alaska, if you want to beat rush hour, you just have one more cup of coffee. Not a lot of traffic jams in our state. Down here, it's a lot more coffee, pots of coffee." This is his first year transporting the Christmas tree. And he said the best part has been watching the reactions of people seeing the tree on the road or at one of the town stops. Like I said, Madam President, there has been thousands of people watching this incredible Alaskan tree going across the country. Fred said people come out to watch the truck and tree go by. They wave to us. They ask us to honk our horn. We are loving it. And the tree, of course, at 85 feet is hard to miss. We're prepping the country for the holiday spirit. So accompanying Fred is John Schank, also an Alaskan and a Capitol Christmas tree delivery veteran. By the way, he's probably the only veteran. Now, I'm not talking about military veteran. I'm talking about he's delivered the Christmas tree before, driving a truck. This is John's second time delivering Alaska's Christmas tree for the country. So go figure on that one. He's probably the only guy in the history of the country who's done this twice. He did it in 2015, which, by the way, was the only other time an Alaskan Christmas tree has made it for the Capitol Christmas tree, since the tree lighting ceremony officially began in 1964. But this drive is nothing compared to the 6 million miles John has banked during his nearly 50-year trucking career. Again, these guys, these Teamsters, these great Teamsters are some of the best truck drivers in the country. I said, Madam President, 6 million miles. For reference, there are only 17,600 miles of public roads in Alaska. During his career, John has effectively driven one of Alaska's public roads more than 340 times. Go figure that one out. Originally from Michigan, but raised by his family in Fairbanks, John's regular route as a trucker for Linden, which is a great Alaskan transportation company, the route he's usually done is from Fairbanks to the oil fields up at Prudhoe Bay. By the way, those of you who watch the different Alaska reality shows, those are the Ice Road Truckers. Great show. Tough duty, by the way. Driving a truck from Fairbanks up to the North Slope, hundreds of miles in the winter on ice. John has done this so well that he was nominated for the American Trucking Association Driver of the Year. Not Alaskan Driver of the Year, American Driver of the Year, both in 2014 and in 2017. John came to Alaska in 1975 to transport food for dog mushing veterans, but also likes to say that he came up to Alaska, quote, for the adventure. And I've been here ever since. It's such a great state. He said the highlight of his trip so far across the country was their stop in Indiana, where he reunited with almost 30 members of his extended family in the Hoosier State who have been tracking the tree and, of course, their fellow family member John on his trip all the way to Washington, D.C. The tree is a family event all around. During their scheduled stops along the drive, families throughout America, thousands of them, have come to admire the tree and get excited about Christmas. Seeing families, seeing kids looking at the tree with rosy cheeks, John said, reminds us it's Christmas time. So there you have it. Two jolly Alaskan men, one literally from North Pole, Alaska, spreading special Alaskan Christmas cheer with this beautiful tree right here across America as they transport America's Christmas tree, Alaska's Christmas tree, to Washington, D.C. All they're missing is some reindeer. You see them right here? And you know, Alaska, we got a lot of reindeer. I'm sure my state would happily loan a few reindeer down here to D.C. You can come and see them yourselves, by the way, up in our state. One of them, Star, a reindeer, actually lives in downtown Anchorage and is always welcoming to visitors. But, Madam President, in all seriousness, the tree, as I mentioned, will be arriving here in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. Alaskans from across the state have been working for months on the over 5,000 decorations that will go on this tree. It is going to be beautiful. It's going to reach for the heavens, light up the night sky here in D.C., an Alaskan tree on our nation's capital will truly mark the beginning of a joyful holiday season for all of us. So thank you, Fred and John, for taking this enormous trek to bring the Capitol Christmas tree and a whole truckload of Christmas spirit across America to D.C. Thanks to all the Alaskans that helped make this happen. Thanks to the Teamsters who keep our state and country's economy rolling strong. And Fred and John, Merry Christmas and congratulations on one of the highest honors anyone in America can achieve, our Alaskan of the Week. Great job, gentlemen. We will see you tomorrow out there with your Christmas tree. I yield the floor.